See you soon.
Okay, guys, you ready? Hello.
Yes.
Let's do it.
Okay, so I wrote here that this is not written to be a medical or halachic conclusion. None of what is written here can be applied. Since every case is different and must be analyzed with an expert, especially in the areas of life and death. If there's a nurse here that's listening to this conversation and takes everything I write to detail, then they should know that I'm only giving the ideas. I'm only here to actually teach some ideas, some Jewish ideas. Nothing more than that. I'm not actually trying to give you the final conclusion, just how the halachic understanding works, okay? So I have a bunch of questions. One was price gouging during a crisis, and that happens always. Whenever there's a crisis, someone comes out with something like bottles of water and sells them for so much more of a price than it's really worth. Is that okay? According to Jewish law, is it not okay? Okay? It's an obvious question, and we all get angry with it. But is it legal according to Jewish law? And when it comes to monetary law, I'll explain this later, we have a rule, dina de malchuta dina, which means that the law of the land is also a law that we are obliged to. So it's true, you know, there's certain laws in Judaism, like marriage laws, which we have our own, even though the country that we live in has its own marriage laws, but we have our own laws of marriage, and we have our own laws in many areas. But when it comes to financial, monetary issues, we actually have to go by the laws of the country, and that law applies to the law of the place that you're in. And that's very logical, because whenever you're doing a business kind of agreement, it's really about your mindset, not about whether it's right or wrong. It's about what your mind is thinking when you're making the deal. So if, let's say, I buy something, it's really, my mind is thinking, okay, based on the culture I'm in, based on the place that I'm in, what is the normal price for this product? If I'm getting overcharged based on this place, so it's all very, what would be the right way of describing it? Something which is dependent on the place you live in. What's that word? There's a word for that. Forgot. But anyway, you get the idea, right? People get the idea? You with me? Dan, you know the name of that thing? When something's dependent on the place you live in? There's a name for that.
For what? Say that again.
Well, there's things which are subjective and there's things which are objective, right? Monetary law is very much subjective to the place that you're in.
Right.
Okay. Other types of laws in Judaism are objective. It's final. There's no question about it. But when it comes to monetary law, it depends on what you were thinking at the time of the transaction that you were making. Okay, right. So that's how each country, we follow the laws of that country because of that reason. Okay, so that's the question of price gouging during a crisis. And I have a whole, look how long this is. We're not going to be able to go through, but this is all work that I've been working on just over the day. I do this for my own joy as well. Okay, then there's another question of stealing patents to save lives. Can you steal? And this is actually something that happened. I have the link here on theverge.com. Maybe I'll go into that link. And basically, what happened was there were these ventilators that these guys made via 3D printing, which, well, there were pieces for the ventilators. They've changed the title now. There was an original article. And they made the valves for literally $1 using 3D printers. And the original article said that they stole the code, the printing code, from a company that made it, that were trying to sell this code for a crazy amount of money. And anyone who would print it will have to pay a lot of money to print these valves. And they managed to print it for $1 by stealing the code, finding that printable document, and they printed, this is in Italy, they printed hundreds of valves for the ventilators to save people's lives, and they only paid $1 for it. And originally, this would have costed them up to $100,000 to have made. So you can imagine that this is a life-saving situation. Can you steal in order to save someone's life? That is a question. Now, you might tell me, it's very obvious. Of course you can steal. You can do anything to save someone's life. Life is very important to Judaism. But is it very important on the expense of someone else? I'll understand Shabbat. I'll understand Yom Kippur, all the very serious laws of Judaism, because that's between you and God. But who says you're allowed to hurt somebody else for your own for your own life, for the saving of your own life? Okay, so that's why there's a question in that regard. Then there is another discussion. Who pays for an event cancellation? So we were meant to be flying to England, and we bought a non-return ticket on the train from London, because it was a much cheaper flight that we found, directly from here to London. And from London, we'll take a bullet train, which is extremely quick, from London to Manchester. And I booked that ticket, and I had a ticket which is called an open return, which allows me to come back and go on any train I wanted at certain times. It was an open ticket. However, the open ticket was non-refundable. Now, I do not need those tickets anymore. And because of this crisis that's going on, I can't go on that train. So should they have the right, even though I paid a non-refundable ticket, do they have the right to tell me, you cannot get your money back, right? 6 tickets on a bullet train cost us about $300, but still money. It's a few beers for Shabbat. And I want to get the money back. And officially, those tickets are non-refundable. So is that okay? What about a wedding? What happens if somebody went to a wedding and they had their wedding organized for this time of the, in Israel, let's say, organized a huge wedding. They organized the hall. They paid a lot of the money up front. They had the flower arrangements. Everything's organized. And suddenly it gets canceled. Who has to pay? 2 days ago, we never knew it was going to be canceled. Comes the day of the wedding, and we have to cancel the hall. No point. Cancel the flower arrangements. These are real questions that have come up. Who should pay? Should the person that organized or paid up front for the wedding, the bride and the groom, should they pay nothing? Should they get all their money back? Should the hall get some money because there were some costs for preparations? Did they lose? How much did they lose? How much should be paid? Half? Okay, so these are big questions we need to think about. Okay, then separate questions are, should weddings actually be cancelled according to Judaism? So you have a wedding, you waited this long, finally you get to the point of marriage, but it can only fit 10 people or up to 50 people in a special location and all your friends can't come. Should you cancel a wedding just because you can't have all your friends come, because you can't have everybody hugging and dancing and celebrating in the way that you would normally celebrate? Do you think it's the right thing to do? Okay. Should we continue dating whilst in quarantine? Do you think dating whilst in quarantine is a good thing? So these are big questions that I think have come up. And there are many more. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. If you have any other questions that you were thinking of, Eitan for sure has some insight on that. And it's really a very interesting time, but it's a time that we can actually raise up some very interesting ideas that the Torah has always been speaking about, at least to get knowledge in many different areas of Jewish law, of Jewish thinking and how we think. It's in general, this is very interesting. Any thoughts, questions, answers? Which question do you like best? Or do you remember the questions I just mentioned?
Can you steal to save someone?
Can you steal to save a life? Right? Can you steal to save a life? So that's a very interesting. Any other questions? What do you think, Gabe?
Yes, you can.
Yes, you can. Is it very obvious, or what are the cases? How much can you steal to save a life?
Yeah.
Well, that's a question to think about. Yes, Dan.
There must be a lot of terms and conditions, because when you're stealing with someone, you have no idea what the effects are of stealing. You don't know if that's putting them in danger of starvation or whatever. So who are you to make the judgment that your life is more important than, someone else's potential life?
There you go. I mean, there's many considerations.
Yeah, I bet it outlines those.
That person's also in panic mode, so they're clearly not, I wouldn't say clearly, but not necessarily clear-minded. They don't know what they're grabbing, they're grabbing whatever they can, possibly.
Right. So definitely at the time, you can't claim anybody's accountable. And if there's a moment of panic, of survival panic, who's going to start opening the Talmud and start thinking out, okay, so what's the law on this one? You're right, Sarah. It's a good point to say, it's a good point to point out here is that who's going to, you're thinking of survival. How can you even think these things? So it's a good point. Any other ideas, thoughts, any other questions that came up? Eitan, did you have any questions that you were thinking of as this pandemic is going on around the world?
There's so many questions. Narrowing it down to the important ones is hard.
It's important.
Exactly. I like what you've got here. I like this.
You like these questions? Thank you, Eitan. Here's another question just came up to me now, right? In India, they closed off, they put the country in lockdown. And for India, it's not like here, no one's got money to save. When you put a country in lockdown, you're also causing a huge economic crisis and survival crisis. What about all the people that now do not have money and might die because of starvation? Is that taken into consideration? This pandemic has a small survival rate, a small death rate in comparison to what could be, right? But at the end of the day, causing India, countries like that where people make $5 a month, literally, and their survival is questionable every second. People have been walking recently for days to go back to their villages from their central cities of India. I don't know if you're aware about what's going on, but they've been walking for days out of the central cities to go back to their villages where they live because they're not getting any money. They're all fired. They can't work. There's no work right now.
It's so good.
Is anyone's speaker on? Maybe they could turn it off. Okay, so but you get my message. You get my idea. There's many questions that can come up. There's so many questions. What about praying in a minyan? What about somebody who's healthy and says that I want to go out in the streets? I don't care about coronavirus. I think I'm healthy. Is he endangering the lives of other people? Is he considered as a murderer because he's now causing a likelihood of death for those that don't? He's causing a likelihood of killing someone by walking around and carrying this virus. It's a very low chance, but he's now a walking murderer. Is he? Is he a walking murderer by going outside and publicly not caring about it, not taking precautions, and with a cold going into a store? Yeah, that's a question. What about somebody who stays home? If you stay at home, are you doing a mitzvah every second that you're staying home in quarantine, in lockdown? Guaranteed you're doing a mitzvah, for sure. You're keeping life. There's a mitzvah in the Torah called Ushmartem Ma'od Nafshotechem. You have to guard and forsake, keep, guard, what's the word? But to keep life, guard life, right? So you have to look after your life. There's a mitzvah in the Torah to make sure you're healthy. Every time somebody stays healthy, eats healthy, they are keeping the mitzvah of Ushmartem Ma'od et Nafshotechem. You have to look after this body that God has given us. So every time somebody is staying home, he's keeping life. He's guarding life. And that's a mitzvah. It's also a mitzvah, V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. You should love your neighbor like yourself, because by you staying at home, you are now keeping the mitzvah of loving your others that are around you, because you can cause them to get sick if you didn't. So there's many, many ideas here. There's no end. There's no end. And then there's laws of halakha, laws of praying in a minyan, which is for sure forbidden at this current time, and so on and so forth. There's many questions. Any other thoughts, or should we start? Should I go to Gabe's answer? Gabe's question that he liked?
Yes,
Straight to
please.
Gabe's question. Okay. Stealing patents to save lives. I showed you the case. Let's talk about saving a life first, okay? The fact that life is above all. You can see my screen? Yeah? Okay. Is it easier if I just share with you the file as a PDF?
You could do that also, but we can see your screen fine. It looks fine to me.
Yeah, you
Okay.
can share it after if you want so we can have it. But no, we can, as Gabe said, we can see it.
Okay. So there is a mitzvah in the Torah, and this is written in Leviticus 18, chapter 18, verse 5, and it says, you should keep my laws, u'shmartem et chukotai ve'et mishpatai. You should keep the Torah, do the laws of the Torah, and my rules, by the pursuit of which man shall live. Asher yaseh otam, but you should do it in a way that a person should live, not man only, mankind, right? So a human should be able to live when you do these mitzvot. I am Hashem. Why I am Hashem? Because I am the one who commanded you all the other commandments. So don't try and be more wise than me who gave you the original commandments. Right? That's the idea, Ani Hashem at the end. When it says, I am God at the end, it's like, hey, it's like when it says, honor your father and your mother. Right? And then it says, I am Hashem. Why? Because to remind you that my mitzvot come before honoring your father and your mother. If your father and mother tell you, don't keep mitzvot, steal, don't do Shabbat, don't do Chesed, don't do the mitzvot of the Torah, and your parents tell you that, should you listen to them? You've got a dilemma. You've got a requirement to listen to your parents, and you've got a requirement to listen to Hashem. So that's why at the end of that statement it says, I am God. Because I am God. I'm the one who gave you that requirement, and I'm also the one that gave you all the mitzvot to keep. Okay? So here as well, I am God. I gave you all the mitzvot. I told you to keep Shabbat. I told you to keep Yom Kippur. I told you to do all these things, but I also said that you should live through these things. Okay? So life is above all, and this is where we know it from. Leviticus 18, chapter 18, verse 5. Okay? That's cool. We don't have to kill ourselves for our Judaism. We have to live for our Judaism. Okay, that's the very first statement. Let's see what the Talmud says. This is very interesting. We can do it on Shabbat. We can transgress Shabbat to save someone's life. V'hazariz, someone who's hasty with this is praiseworthy. Somebody who goes quickly to transgress Shabbat, turns on the phone quickly without even thinking, to call the ambulance, quickly goes in the car, takes his car and helps save someone's life. That is actually someone who's meshubach. Meshubach is a language of, is praised. He's someone who's praised with. Okay, and you don't need to ask anyone. You don't ask a court. You don't need to ask permission from anyone. If you need to transgress any Judaism to save someone's life, then you transgress it. Now, there are 3 cases where we don't transgress. We'd rather die than transgress it. Does anyone know what they are?
You
Anyone
can't
remember
kill
what they are?
somebody.
Kill
You
someone?
can't
Adultery.
commit idolatry, and you
Yeah.
can't commit adultery.
Adultery.
Yeah. There you go. Dan, you got it. Adultery and idolatry. And Jonathan, we said kill someone else. So killing someone else, the rule there is because who says your blood is redder than that person's blood? Okay, who says your life is more valuable than somebody else's blood? So if somebody comes up to you and says, hey, either you kill somebody else or I kill you, what should you do? Get killed.
Say the Shema.
Say the Shema and take the bullet, right? Why?
Rabbi, what about
Because-
self-defense?
What about it?
She means like what? Can you kill somebody
Can you
who's
kill
trying to kill
someone
you?
for self-defense?
Yes. In that case, you can, because that person's a murderer. That person that's coming to kill you is called a rodef, is a chaser. He's chasing after you to kill you. And you have the right, even without a court, to kill somebody who's chasing someone to kill someone. Okay, even if it's not you. If, let's say, I see someone running in the street with a gun trying to kill someone, I have a right to kill that person. I should try and kill that person as long as I'm going to be safe as much as I can when I do it. We're going to say I should even put myself in danger to save someone's life, and I should even spend money to save someone's life. The question is how much? But that's a good question. We have a rule, somebody who comes to kill you, you jump up and kill him first because he's a murderer. By the way, for this reason, we allow abortion when the fetus is killing the mother. Because if the fetus is killing the mother, so what's that child now called?
A murderer.
The child's a murderer. It's murdering. It's called a rodef in Hebrew, right? It's chasing after the mother. It's murdering the mother, and therefore there's a right to kill that child. Right? It's a sad situation, but that's able to be done according to Judaism. For the sakes of life, we can kill life. Okay, so that was a good question. But here goes Maimonides. Now this Maimonides is mind blowing. Okay, I would love to read the Hebrew of it. But he talks again about Shabbat, and he says like this: these things should not be left to only be performed by non-Jews. Meaning, if, let's say, you are, like me, a rabbi, should I say, oh, I'll give it to my child to do it? I'll give it to save someone's life, or transgress Shabbat. He's talking directly. This is Maimonides in the second chapter of Shabbat. And he says clearly there, should I say, okay, I will save someone's life, but I'll give the phone to my child to save someone's life. I won't transgress Shabbat, but maybe I'll give it to my wife because, I'm a rabbi. Maybe I'll give it to my wife. Could you even say such a thing? Of course not, right? Should I say, oh, I can't do it, because I'm a rabbi. I'll ask a non-Jew to do it. Why not? A non-Jew could save someone's life on Shabbat. You could easily you would think it's better ask a non-Jew to transgress Shabbat to save someone's life than you do it. And Maimonides says, no. It's wrong. And this is also brought down in the Shulchan Aruch in Jewish law. It's wrong if you look for someone else to do it. This is a fascinating idea. If somebody's sick and you have to save them, it's wrong to look for somebody else to do it. By the way, we're talking about choli sheyesh bo sakana, a sickness that has a danger to the person, even if it won't immediately kill him. For instance, a severe damage on his eye, right? Which is pain that can eventually get to the internal parts of his limbs. You're allowed to transgress Shabbat to save that person and call them. Even if you might say, no, this is not a life and death situation, but it is in the long run. Even if in 2 days it can cause a life and death situation, because now that person's in pain and it's a choli sheyesh bo sakana, already now you can call. Put it this way, any situation where during the week you would call the ambulance, any situation where during the week you'd call the ambulance, you can call the ambulance on Shabbat as well. Okay? So the idea is we're very lenient when it comes to a sickness where there is a life-threatening danger, even if it's not a life-threatening danger immediately. Oh, I have 5 hours till Shabbat is out. I can survive for another 5 hours. No. If it's a life-threatening danger in that situation, you should call the police. Now look at the language that he says. Don't say, oh, I'll ask non-Jews, minors, servants, my wife, lest they consider the Shabbat a light matter. Instead, scholars and sages of Israel to carry them out. One must not put off the desecration of the Shabbat in treating a serious patient. As it written, if a man obeys them, he shall live by them, but he must not die by them. Which is the statement that we just mentioned. From this you may infer, and the laws of the Torah are not meant to wreak vengeance upon the world, but to bestow on it mercy, kindness, and peace. Isn't that interesting? The whole point of Torah is peace, mercy, and kindness. Yes?
What if, I was just thinking of this, a Jewish doctor, an Orthodox doctor, I guess they can always kind of be on call, but it's Shabbat, and they're
Yes.
the only doctor that can, like every other doctor is tied up or whatever, and they're the only doctor that can come in and save, or they're a specialist. Can they break Shabbat to do that?
100%. 100%. Maimonides, by the way, was the private doctor of the Egyptian, I forgot what they were called, the Sultan, the Egyptian king of his time. And he was working Shabbat all week long. He wrote all these books, but he kept Shabbat, but as long as it was in regards to saving someone's life, he was transgressing Shabbat. He was the greatest doctor in the whole Middle East. Now, everyone who was in serious condition would come to him. He was extremely busy. He writes that he doesn't have much time to write. He's got a whole letter that he sends to his brother about how difficult his life is. And he spends only, at nights, he has a few minutes to rest, and he asks someone to read the questions. He takes only one hour of questions a day that are coming from the public, and he lies on the floor because he can't stand anymore, puts a cloth on his head, and he has that 1 hour. He falls asleep, and in between his moments of sleep, he answers the questions. So Maimonides was somebody who spent his lifetime transgressing Shabbat for other people's lives. Okay, so that's just Maimonides himself, one of the greatest leaders that the Jewish people had. Okay, so yes, for sure. There's actually an organization called Hatzalah. Has anyone here heard of Hatzalah? So that's a Jewish paramedic organization which is involved in the Jewish community, and you have it very big in Israel and very big in the Orthodox community in America as well. And basically, every street that there's a family, at least one member of that street would have a microphone or a walkie-talkie, and he'd be part of this big organization, and he'd take calls, and they'd get dispatched because they're very close to each other. Everyone's in the area. You could save lives instead of waiting for the ambulance. That could take a long time for the ambulance to come. I'm hearing an echo. Very strange. Okay, but that's the idea. Okay, so we believe, and by the way, those people that have these dispatchers, the Hatzalah, this organization within the Orthodox community, they carry their walkie-talkies on Shabbat in synagogue. Sometimes I'm in shul, they're reading the Torah, and I hear this loud walkie-talkie going off because we are allowed to work, we're allowed to transgress Shabbat to save a life. Okay, but this wasn't the point of what I wanted. Sorry?
Like firefighters, first responders, they're allowed.
Of course. Okay, so that's another whole thing. Okay, let's continue. So he said, if a man obeys them, he should live by them, but he must not die by them. From this you may infer that the laws of the Torah meant not to wreak vengeance upon the world, but to bestow on it mercy, kindliness, and peace. Okay, let's go to the next statement. We said the 3 cardinal sins. That's the Talmud in Sanhedrin 74a. Where's the requirement to actively save a life? So if, let's say, you see someone who's drowning, are you allowed to just walk by and ignore and just say, I didn't see anything?
No.
Are you required to swim? What happens if you're old? What happens if you're an old man and you can't swim?
Not if it risks your life.
Okay, not if it risks your life. But should we stop there?
You can do the best you can. You can try to go get help if you can't go. You can't physically go.
So you said you can try to go help, but that's not enough according to Judaism. We have to actually actively spend money if I can't do it, and actively call or make every single effort that I can to save that person's life that is in danger. Okay, so
that's what I mean. Like you call 911, you go get help.
Yeah, what happens if you have to go quickly to the dollar store, to Walmart and get a float, and quickly run back, spend the money? That's going to help. If anything you can, anything you spend money. Okay, let me give you some examples. Okay, so here's the idea that you actively have to go and save a life. Then we're going to talk about using someone else's money to save a life. Okay, so this is the Talmud in Sanhedrin 73a. From where do we know that one who sees someone drowning or being dragged by a wild animal or being threatened by thieves, bandits, or robbers is bound to save that person? Is required, bound meaning required to save him. We learn it from a verse in Leviticus chapter 19, verse 16, which says, do not stand aside when your fellow's blood is being shed. Lo ta'amod adam re'echa. Don't stand on the blood of your friend. That does not mean that if your friend is bleeding, it's saying, hey, be careful, don't stand in the blood that's in a pool around him and keep away from that blood. That's not what it means. It means it's giving me a graphic example of don't allow your friend, your fellow friend, to be dying and ignore it. That's called standing on his blood, meaning just making it, ignoring his situation whilst he is in a life-threatening situation. Okay? So from there, we learn it. Then the Talmud then goes and says, wait a second. We have another place which tells me, I know of another place which tells me that you shouldn't ignore somebody that's dying. The Talmud then continues and asks, don't we have another source that requires us to save a life? How do we know it? As it says, we should surely return a lost object to its owner. There's a law that if somebody has a lost object, for instance, you walk down the street and you see a wallet on the floor, could you say, no one is watching, I'll just continue walking. And why would I bother find the wallet, open it, find out who it belongs to, right? Why should I do all of that? Let me just walk past and ignore it. So it says, Lo tita'alem, you can't turn an eye away. If you see a lost item, you have to actually pick it up and return it, find its original owner. There's a requirement in the Torah. By the way, this applies also when you walk into a store, grocery store, and you see some tomatoes that have fallen from the area that is being sold from, and it's on the floor. If you leave it on the floor, someone's going to trample on it, right? You are required to save the money of the owner of the store, even in that area, right? And pick up those tomatoes, even if it's worth a small amount, and return it, because you're now doing a mitzvah of returning a lost item of its own. Okay, this is applied in many areas. By the way, there too, in that verse where it says, don't turn away from a lost article, don't ignore a lost item, it also says there, I am God. Ani Hashem at the end of it. Why does it say I am God at the end of it?
In case you forgot.
So therefore, Hashem says what? I am God. Hashem says, don't turn away from a lost item when you see in the street. I am God. What? In case you forget, what do you mean?
Even if no one else is watching, Hashem's eyes are always on you.
Good. That's exactly the point. Ani Hashem, I am God, meaning don't turn away. I am God. I know that you're turning away, because it's one of those mitzvot that no one can know that you're turning away from a lost item, right? You could easily walk past, no one's around, no one knows that you ignored it, and you could get away with it. But I am God. You want to be a righteous person, be a righteous person between yourself and God, not for other people, right? So that's really the idea. So here goes, the Talmud says, well, we have that rule, you can't ignore a lost item. And basically the Talmud is saying that the body that's now being lost in the ocean, that person that's dying, is no worse than a lost item in the street, if already you have to return, Dan, if already you have to return a lost item on the street, all the more so a body that's being lost on the street, a body that's being lost in the ocean, you have to return it to its owner. The body is owned by the person. You have to return it to its owner. True? So if already you have to return a lost item, of course you have to return a lost body, a person that's losing his body. So the Talmud says, don't we learn it from there? Why do we need the other statement which says, don't stand on your brother's blood? Two different statements. We could learn it from this statement which says, don't ignore the lost item. Why do you need these two statements? That is the question of the Talmud. And the Talmud answers, of course, we need both. Why? Why do you think we need both? Don't stand on your brother's blood, which teaches me save your friend if he's dying. And also, don't ignore a lost object, return a lost object to its owner. Both teaching me the same thing, that you should save somebody's life. Why do we need both? The answer is, Eitan, can you read? He's always good at that. What's the Talmud says? The Talmud answers, if we would learn it only from lost objects, can you see it?
Wait, all right, we got it.
Where is it?
Am I not on the screen?
Should return this.
No,
I moved it to the top.
we're on the screen now.
Which word do you want to start at?
The Talmud answers.
The Talmud answers, if we would learn it only from lost objects, we will conclude that one does not need to spend money or hire someone else to save a life.
Okay, so the idea of a lost object, I wouldn't say that I have to go and spend money. If I see a lost object in the street, do I have to go and spend money to return it to its owner? Do I have to lose money to return it to the owner? If, let's say, I see a lost cow and it costs me money to look after that cow every day, do I have to look for the owner and hold on to the cow till I find the owner of the cow? Of course not. I'm not required to lose money for the mitzvah of Hashabat Avedah, of returning a lost item. But I am required to actively go out of my way to save somebody's life because of the other mitzvah which says, don't stand on your brother's blood that's being shed. Is everyone with me? It's kind of a lot of Talmud here. Are you guys following?
Yeah.
Is everyone following?
Why don't they just say, don't stand on your brother's blood, and that would take care of both of them?
It does. The other one is talking about lost items. The question of the Talmud was,
why do you need the other one?
Why do I need the one which is don't stand in your brother's blood? You already have lost object. It's already a lost object. You've got to return. Of course, you've got to return a losing body. And the answer is no, we need that extra commandment, because if that lost body is going to die, then how do I know that I have to actively go out and save someone? Here is the idea, that I actively have to spend money and go out of my way to save someone's life. We're going to just finish off in a very few minutes. So that is the idea, okay? But here goes a great Rishon, the Rosh, and he says like this: if you spend money, I'm just going to jump, because the Talmud says, this is the Shulchan Aruch, I'm on the screen, the Shulchan Aruch Choshen Mishpat 4261, and he says, if you could have saved and you did not save him, you transgressed the commandment of do not stand aside from your fellow's blood as he's being shown. The Rosh, one of the great Rishonim, one of the great writers of the Jewish people in the 13th century, he says like this. He says, if somebody spends money to save you, you actually have to pay him back afterwards. Logically, you have to pay him back. Because if you would have the money to be able to save yourself, right? If you would have your own money to save yourself, then you would spend it. So of course, if somebody else spends money for you to save you, you are actually required afterwards that he saved your life to save you, to pay you back. But the big question is, what happens if he calls, let's say, this is a true story, if somebody's, let's say, in the valley or he's lost and he's injured, he climbed a mountain, let's say Mount Everest, he's lost, he's injured, and he calls the ambulance and they come by helicopter. Suddenly he gets a $30,000 fine. You called your friend, saved your friend's life by bringing the helicopter, and now you get a $30,000 fine. Does the person that you saved have to pay you $30,000 back? I mean, where's the limit? What's the limit? But the Rosh clearly says that if somebody causes a loss of money because you saved someone's life, if I had to spend my money to save someone's life, then you have to pay me back after I've saved your life. Okay? That is the rule. Now, here goes the great statement of using someone else's money to save your life. Till now, we only spoke about using your own money to save someone's life. What about stealing someone's money to save your life? Okay, that part we didn't learn yet. And it seems, based on what we said till now, it's obvious that you can steal money to save someone's life, because we said there's 3 cardinal sins. There's only 3 things where you can't do. You'd rather transgress than save someone's life. Saving someone's life is number 1 in Judaism, right? Besides for those 3 very severe sins. But everywhere else, the number 1 of Judaism is you have to save someone's life. So based on that, you should be able to steal from someone else as well in order to save someone's life. Agree? Everyone agree? Should be able to steal to save a life. Because we said you can even transgress Shabbat, which is much more severe than stealing. You can definitely transgress, you could transgress everything. So you can transgress Yom Kippur to save a life, right? You can transgress everything. So of course you'll be able to transgress stealing to save someone's life. And this is what the Shulchan Aruch says. I'm just going to read that. I'm skipping a lot because there's a whole Talmud about stealing to save someone's life. But I'll go straight to the final conclusion of the law, which is that if someone's in danger of death, okay, Shulchan Aruch Laws of Theft 359 section 4, he says, even if one is in danger of death and is required to steal to save a life, he can only do it with a mind to pay back the money afterwards. Okay, so he has to actively make in his mind, even if he knows that he won't be able to, so he'll have to actively make in the mind that he will eventually pay that money back. But if you choose to live under someone else's expense financially, you have to at that moment make the commitment to pay back the money. So to answer Sarah's question, which was, if somebody's in crazy worry right now and he's, it's about saving my life, you're not going to think twice. If I need something to save my life, I'm not going to think, am I stealing or not stealing? You can steal to save somebody's life. The only condition is, at that moment that you do it, you are now entering the law which requires you to pay that person back the money for that theft. So the people that stole that patent, that code to make those valves are able to do it. They're allowed to take it. I don't think they're not allowed to sell it to others, but they're definitely able to take it to save somebody's life. And they're able to take it to save somebody's life, but they do have to pay the person that they took it from back. There is another point to make here, and I'll finish with that, is that in Judaism, you're not really stealing if you don't lower the value of the item that you're stealing from. Okay, so if I take a code online, right, a copyright code, if I copy a disc online, it's not ethical to do, but it's patur, but it's not directly stealing like regular theft, because I've not lowered the item of lowered the value of the item that I've stolen. Okay, so for instance, if let's say I take, in the times of the temple, if I would take some food and I would contaminate it, have I actually lowered or changed the actual item in itself? The apple stays the same apple. Just because I contaminated it doesn't mean that I've lost the value of the apple. It's forbidden for me to do it, but it's not the same level as actually stealing the apple and using it. Okay? Because I've not changed the value of the apple. So that's another aspect which gives me another reason to give me another leniency in stealing a code, which is not an actual tangible thing, which is something which is stealing. Okay, so I need to finish because Shira has a class. But are there any questions or thoughts before I'll go into let Shira do her class with Tehillim? Are there any thoughts or questions?
Yeah, well,
I
had a question about what you just said there. You said that contaminating an apple doesn't change its value.
It changes the value, but you're not changing the item. It's an indirect cause which changes the item. Let me give you another example to answer that question. If let's say somebody owns a store in LA and it's a unique store that sells Persian carpets, and you open let's say I said, right? And then you open a street away another store which sells Persian carpets. By you opening that store, you've lowered the value of all of his products. True or not true?
You've lowered the demand.
Yeah,
Lower the
I've
demand.
lowered the demand and
you actually just
lower
increase the
demand.
supply for all you people that are saying you increase the demand, lower the demand.
Exactly, supply
Yeah,
demand.
well,
The more,
there's a relationship there. It's called
Relationship,
supply
sure.
and demand. So
Undoubtedly.
it's
Yeah.
actually
Supply and
the
demand.
same thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not true. Is it true or not true? Am I lowering the cost indirectly?
You're lowering
Yeah.
the cost by increasing the supply.
Exactly.
Correct.
By increasing supply and the demand is now filled, the cost is going down. So that is not forbidden. It's not ethical. It's not a nice thing to do, but it's not forbidden according to law. By the way, what we're talking about is legal versus what's right to do. If I go and steal a song from the internet, it's not ethical thing to do. And it's also rabbinically forbidden, but it's not a direct theft from the Torah. No one can tell you that it's a direct theft from the Torah because you're not stealing a tangible item. Okay, you're causing a lowering of the value. It's not a good thing to do. It's not an ethical thing to do. I don't think I'll see the holiest rabbis of Judaism going online trying to steal some free music on Spotify, right? They wouldn't do that. But at the end of the day, it's not. When it comes to a legal stance, then it's not illegal. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm sorry, we're gonna have to cut this short because Shira's got another class. So I love you all. Maybe we should start this a bit earlier next time. But I think. Oh, Shira has an announcement to make. 1 second. I'm gonna leave you. I love you all. I miss you. And keep it real. Guys, I have a ton of beers in my garage. Please come and get some. I don't know what to do with them. Chametz is coming. Passover is coming. Anyone who wants, DM me saying, hey, dude, I'll get some beers and I'll give you them. Okay? Cool?
Thanks, Rabbi.
Pleasure. See you then. And here's Shira. 1 second.
Bye, Rabbi. No, I don't need it. All right, apparently I need these. Okay, just wanted to let you know, everyone, that thanks to our lit board, we came up with the idea last night, of having a happy hour before Taco Tuesday, like we usually used to do. So the class usually starts 8:30. So we're gonna do at 8 every Tuesday, okay? So it's gonna be like, we'll get into the mode of doing it every Tuesday until we're back to normal. 8 o'clock, you come on, bring your drink with you. I mean, have it with you, not bring your drink. And it's gonna be time to just drink, hang, have some fun. And it's gonna be about, what did we say, Dan? Half an hour or more?
Yeah, half an hour.
I think we said half an hour, right? So,
Yep.
hold on. Oh, okay.
So happy hour,
So yeah, okay. What were you saying?
happy hour at 8. Start the lesson at 8.
Yes, exactly. So we're looking forward to seeing you a little earlier, and you can show off with your drinks. And if you need some beer, come get some. We'll leave it outside the door, so you have some for Taco Tuesday. All right. And for the girls that are staying in my class, you probably can't stay on this. Jack, should we log out? Oh, okay, fine. So we're gonna